Do you know what these cars are going to do now?
They're going to go shakedown.
Straight down where?
Shakedown.
Are they going to do shakedown? What does that mean?
Wow, you guys work here?
The quaint rural landscapes of Purbeck are about to be in for a shock. Descending around this fragile ecosystem, a motorsport with a mission: to speed up the transformation to electric vehicles on our roads, which are central to many countries' plans to reduce their carbon emissions, but still only accounted for less than 5% of new car sales globally in 2020. The technology and its affordability have come a long way. There is still a long road ahead.
I've come to Dorset in southwest England to take a look at a race series that's pushing electric vehicles to new limits while highlighting the threat of climate change.
It's called Extreme E, and over the course of the past year or so, it's torn through the dunes of Alula in Saudi Arabia, ripped past Senegal's under threat Lac Rose. We've come to the final race of the season near the UK's ancient Jurassic coast.
That's not a normal racetrack, it's for tanks.
Bovington's usually used as a training ground for the British Army. This week, it's allowing a rather different crowd on site. As Extreme E's Chief Championship Officer, James Taylor, explains.
So Extreme E is an electric off-road racing series. We race our Odyssey 21 cars in extreme parts of the world, whilst using sport as a platform to talk about climate change issues around the world.
What's happening here in the next few days?
So this is the Jurassic X Prix. This is the finale of the championship, and today we will see the first day of racing on track.
How does this compare, the season finale, to the other tracks that you've used around the world?
Every track is so different. You know, in Saudi we had the deep desert sand dunes. Then we went on to Greenland, where we were in the Arctic. Here, because of all the rain we've had in the last 2 weeks, it's just deep mud.
The championship cars are a one-design fleet, fully electric SUV named Odyssey 21. The cars are at the cutting edge of racing technology. They have a single battery produced by Williams Advanced Engineering, which stores 40 kilowatts of usable energy. That's the equivalent of running your washing machine for 10 hours straight. There are two 250 kilowatt powertrains on board, feeding the front and rear axles independently, capable of producing the equivalent to a 550 horsepower combustion engine. The driver can move the torque between the motors directly from the cockpit, allowing them to maximise energy efficiency to the wheels, depending on factors like speed, grip and terrain. The chassis, crash structure and roll cage are manufactured using a niobium-reinforced steel alloy tubular frame. This provides strength and flexibility under the diverse racing conditions. And the bodywork is made from a high-performance natural flax fibre. Yes, you heard that right. The body is made using fibre from the flax plant. This creates a composite that is not only a renewable CO2-neutral material, but also lightweight and durable. All the cars are manufactured by Spark Racing Technology and have a little something extra hidden in the cockpit, which Pierre Prunin, Spark's head of motorsport, explains to me.
On the steering wheel itself, they have just 4 buttons for wipers, radio, pit limb, and also the hyperdrive, which is a bit more exciting. It gives them a boost of power that they can use once a lap to try to overtake more easily.
So is that in the rules?
Yes, yes.
As an engineer,
Yep.
you know, as guys who are engineering at the cutting edge, what are the team here most proud of? Where are you really pushing the boundaries with this vehicle?
There are 2 things. First, it's the first time that we have high power, cutting edge powertrains into an off-road car, and they needed to be quite stronger than what we usually do in Formula E, because the environment here is completely crazy. And the other interesting point, I think, is that because we have 2 powertrains which are not mechanically linked, we can split the torque front and rear. Each team can program what they want. They can adjust the torque balance also dynamically, depending on the situation.
With the sport attracting some big names from the F1 circuit, including past team rivals Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg owning their own teams, It's no wonder they're also attracting some legendary drivers.
So we're at the tent for Sebastian Loeb, legendary race driver.
Lewis Hamilton's Team X44 manager Gustavo Bertelli takes us under the hood.
So this big unit here is the 200 kilowatt motor. Next is the inverter, so that converts the power from the battery to the motor. The motor's linked to a gearbox that then splits the power between the two front wheels. We as teams can, choose how we use that power.
With so much power needed for off-roading, one big challenge is keeping the batteries cool.
We've got the cooling pipe that goes on the side of the battery, cools the internals of the battery, and then the hot air comes out the other side.
In Season 1, 3-hour cool and charge pit stops remain the only option.
How's it been? Like, what are the big differences in terms of the way the car races, for example?
Yeah, I mean, the championship's completely different, isn't it? The format, having a female drive with a male driver, and then having to work on an electric car, the time it takes to charge, to cool it down is completely different to just pumping some fuel in the car and going again.
So what is it that needs to change then? Where does the real effort, the real push need to come?
Well,
Technology?
either battery technology to make sure it lasts longer and is quicker to charge, but we've got these other technologies with hydrogen and sustainable fuels coming up now that they're cheaper, more sustainable, and last for a longer time. So that's probably where the technology will go.
That charging power is already coming from hydrogen fuel cells on site.
So that is a hydrogen fuel cell system.
But the system remains way too large to fit inside a vehicle.
So we start here, we make electricity from solar, so we have to set up several weeks in advance to make the electrical power.
Electrical energy is then passed through water using electrolyzer technology. That creates hydrogen gas, which is used to store the energy. When it's needed, the hydrogen is then pumped into fuel stacks alongside oxygen using an electrochemical process. It's then converted into electrical energy.
The battery then stores the electrical power and the cars just charge up off the batteries.
So this is charging the actual vehicles?
Yeah, so all of the race vehicles are charged on site by clean power, all hydrogen fed, and the cars just come and go and just take what they need from the batteries. We don't have any carbon anywhere in our process. That's its running up.
Oh, right.
So what's happened?
So somebody's plugged in their car?
Someone's plugged in and the batteries come down to a set point and the fuel cell's spinning up to start charging it up. So instead of a diesel generator, that'll be pumping out, belching out black sooty smoke and smelling and putting all that carbon into the atmosphere, we've just got a hum.
How common is a system like this? Where else do they exist? Where else do you make use of this?
Well, this technology actually existed in the sort of like the space missions. The NASA space missions in the 1960s, the Gemini process, and this technology has been evolved since then. Our next generation, which we're working on right now, which we plan to launch next year, will have this sort of capacity in about the size of a telephone box, so quarter of the size, or 4 times the amount of power.
How long do you think until this kind of technology might be able to power, an entire music event?
It's very, very soon. I can't say too much, but we've got the technology today. It's ready to go.
Okay. God, that will be a game changer, won't it, for those big live events?
It already is.
Yeah.
It already is.
With the vehicles charged, it's time for the...
What is going to happen now? Excuse me. Do you mind if I ask a quick question? Do you know what these cars are going to do now?
They're gonna go shakedown.
Straight down where?
Shakedown.
Are they going to do shakedown? What does that mean?
Wow, you guys work here?
The shakedown, it turns out, is a practice lap. And 28-year-old Christine Giampaoli Zonca will be taking part.
Which is your vehicle?
1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth, for starting from the right.
With the purple and green. But were there points in the tour where you looked at some of the tracks and thought, this is going to be a real challenge for the vehicle?
Oh yeah, every time.
Really?
In this championship, every time.
Wow.
Because the cars are not like exactly developed for the terrain, I believe.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's the first year, so they're just doing.
So it's an experiment to find out what works.
Each team has 2 drivers, 1 male and 1 female. The race events are held over 2 days. On day 1, the teams have a practice and 2 qualifying rounds of time trials. On day 2, in the qualifying rounds, teams in 1st, 5th and 6th will progress to semi-final 1, with 2nd, 3rd and 4th spots advancing to semi-final 2. And teams finishing in 7th, 8th and 9th will go through to the crazy race. First and second place teams from each semi-final, plus the winner of the crazy race, will go through to the final.
All these cars are made by the same company, Spark, aren't they?
Yeah.
So what's the difference between them?
So there's nothing actually different between them. It's a spec series, so every car is exactly the same.
Okay.
There's very minor adjustments we're allowed to do on the cars that differentiate them.
Okay. Does that mean that in contrast to, say, Formula One, where there's so much about what engine has been put in and which team is going to have the better vehicle, here it's all down to how well you drive when you get in the car?
It is. It's
really?
more of a driver series, which
Okay.
is really awesome. You know?
Is there any kind of cooperative spirit then between the fact that you're all driving the same vehicles?
Yeah, definitely. Every team, they talk about their weaknesses in the vehicle, and they talk about what they're doing to make it better, and they work together with the series in order to do so. So it is pretty cool because we all want to have the best car we can, right?
As they prepare to head out, drivers don't seem too worried about the surface.
Are you worried about the mud?
Worried about it? No. I think it's we got a good plan. I think we've got some history with the dirt and the mud, so no, it's just another day at the track.
I think the first thing you notice is the lack of sound, obviously. You don't have that engine roaring when you're racing. I think instantly as well you notice how much torque you have to begin with, how much power you have off the start line, which is really exciting, and I think this is the baseline for the technology. It's like a switch on and off the gas pedal. So you're at the start line, you go and just boom.
Right. They're fast enough to be fun to drive, but also massively different electronic-wise, drivetrain-wise, power delivery-wise, but they are race cars and they're damn fun to drive.
The male and female drivers will get a chance to test out the course itself, including the jump. It's called the knife edge. It's used by the British Army to test their tanks, and we're using it this weekend to race it.
The knife edge is 5.4 metres in height and stands bang in the middle of a straight run of track. Tests the driver's control and the resilience of their vehicles.
So we're at the start line now. Christine is inside the vehicle here. She's just about to head off for her practice laps.
It's just the fact that you hear other things. Like, normally in the car, you're like, wah, 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 in this one, you're like, zzz, zzz, and you hear so much, like the suspension moving, like all the surroundings, So I feel that, yes, of course, with the electric, we know that we can do 4 laps and then we have to stop and charge and we have to wait it to cool down. But apart from that, the car is built the same way or even better. It's way more technological, developed than my car. So
Christine's just finished her practice lap. She's pulling in, muddied. She's made it. Let's find out how she thinks she's got on. We're back.
Hello.
First things first, that's the first time you've driven the track, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how was it?
Pretty insane. Like,
Okay.
the track is really gnarly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Compared to the others of the season?
I mean, it's really different. Like, this is all muddy and you're like just not in control of the car. It's just you're sideways all the time. And you're like, okay, sometimes eventually I'll be straight again.
Were there any moments where you felt like you might lose control?
Yeah, I did a few times.
Where do you see this going? So let's say you're still driving in a couple of years in these vehicles.
Right now we have a lot of power, but we can't use it all, with the security thing, safety, whatever. So
do you still have to keep quite an eye on
yeah,
overusing certain aspects of the vehicle because it might not quite have the power or
completely.
the range?
Yeah, I feel that in a few years the car will handle anything, so it's just going to be up to the driver. Right now it's a little bit of both. We are really trying hard to. I mean, it's hard to tell a driver go slow, But for example, in the jump we have here, you can't flat it. You just can't. The car's going to break, so you have to be careful.
So you still have to hold back a little bit.
Yeah.
What about the technology? Because you're already pushing the boundaries here, aren't you?
We are. We've seen Formula E pushing the on-track technology side of things, and I think the 4x4 market, the SUV market, is huge worldwide, and we're showing that electric SUVs have the performance and also the range and the power to be viable vehicles on the roads.
So it's clear, part of Extreme E's focus is to help speed up the revolution in electric vehicles. But does it also risk undermining their very purpose? That is, to protect the planet.
We're standing here on Studland Dunes, which is the easternmost point of the Purbeck Heaths National Nature Reserve.
What is it about this place that's so unique?
So what's really special about it, you're on the edge of the most biodiverse bit of the whole of the UK here. Lots of species, but also lots of really rare species that survive here that have been lost from our wider landscape.
So why on earth would you want to host this huge international car racing competition on this delicate land?
People are part of this landscape as well, and we don't try and shy away from that. I think, to be honest, one of the mistakes nature conservation has made in the past is trying to think, well, nature over there, people over there, and it doesn't work because people, we've got to have nature with people, but also if you disconnect people from nature, we'll never find a solution to this. We have to find ways to reconnect people, and all of these sorts of events we do, in a small way, in their own way, are reconnecting people. And I think what I think is exciting about the Extreme E event is it opens up a completely different audience to us.
How do you select the sites? What kinds of things are you thinking about to ensure that you're really taking care of the environment when you're here?
We work with our scientific committee, which is a panel of top scientific experts from around the world who advise us on where we race and how we can make a difference in those locations.
And that's not just paying lip service. The teams have worked to protect Greenland's ice sheets, sea turtles around the Indian Ocean, and now beavers near the Dorset coast.
So we're building the den for the beavers. This is where they'll come when they're first introduced from Scotland.
So we're building a beaver hive.
Yes, OK, it's a publicity stunt, and we fall them right into the middle of it.
Yeah, right here. Shall I put that one down there?
Yeah.
There we go.
This is an animal that can bolster biodiversity in an area that's been rewilded.
I've been very, genuinely impressed with the levels of interest from the drivers and the teams of the drivers in what we were doing. If that's played out through social media or through the media to the millions of people who follow this sport who wouldn't normally be thinking about these things, then that's a good thing for us to be provoking that debate.
It's a very different message in each of the race locations. Normally they're a lot further from home than this, so they're quite extreme. So when we're in Greenland, we're learning obviously about the melting ice sheet. This is really nice to actually realise the impacts close to home. But we're kind of here sharing it with our followers, giving them a new audience and hopefully sharing the knowledge that we're learning throughout the day from the scientists with all of motorsport fans.
Right now, it might not look like a lot, like what lives in sand?
So this is another really important aspect of this event actually, because you're drawing people in with the promise of this exciting motorsport, but then you're using that platform to bring them out into nature and informing them about the importance of protecting this natural environment.
And we're literally creating homes for those really, really rare species that need it.
Every legacy project I'm learning something, and something I normally probably wouldn't learn because I'm just there usually racing, and now I'm getting to do these types of things that they're throwing me into to be involved and learn. And my life's changed. I've done things in a lot greener way. I've also done things to help with waste. And
were you racing other vehicles before then?
Oh yeah, and I still do.
Okay.
So
there's still some petrol head in you.
There's definitely some petrol head still in me. But I am very much I very much believe in electric technology and what it can become.
I think it sends a clear message that electric SUVs can perform well in all terrains.
I definitely think motorsport has to change its direction. Classically, it's been a bit behind, I guess, in terms of how it's going sustainably. Also, gender equality and diversity within sport is, it's been a big step, and hopefully we'll include some of those messages a bit further into different genres of motorsport.
Loads of wheels been remembered, and Chris Thompson looks to have got the best traction on the outside line. Going to try and squeeze across.
Over the course of the weekend, the Extreme E finals and Year One's home finale pulled in viewing figures of 60 million across 195 countries, continuing to attract a fast-growing audience for this environmentally conscious motorsport.
Finished already, but don't worry, we've got loads more Razor stories for you. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and hit the bell button below for notifications. We'll see you next time.